Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Nadeem and the title of my project is The Prevalence of Cardiovascular-Related Comorbidity in Patients with Ankylosing Spondylitis, Psoriatic Arthritis and Psoriasis. The background to our project is essentially that patients with AS and PSA have been shown to have increased morbidity and mortality through excess cardiovascular disease. However, the true extent of CVD-related comorbidities in these inflammatory arthritis groups remains unclear, particularly in a UK primary care population. And so our objective was to compare the prevalence of CVD-related comorbidities in patients with AS, PSA and psoriasis from UK primary care and against matched controls. And to do this, we conducted a matched retrospective cohort study where 3 cohorts were constructed for patients with AS, PSA and psoriasis without known PSA. Each cohort was matched to controls in a 1:4 ratio for age, gender and general practice. And the CVD-related comorbidities of interest included hypertension, ischemic heart disease, hyperlipidemia and diabetes, and these were identified using read codes. I apologise for the complex table and lots of numbers, but I'll draw you to some of the more salient points. So the first of note is that we found a significantly higher prevalence of hypertension in patients with AS and PSA. Unfortunately, however, whilst we found a higher frequency, this did not achieve significance in patients with AS or PSA for ischemic heart disease, diabetes or hyperlipidemia. And another interesting point of note is that in patients with psoriasis, there was no difference or very little difference in the frequency of cardiovascular-related comorbidities, and none of these related comorbidities achieved significance. The other thing we looked at was the comorbidities diagnosed after the inflammatory condition of interest. We noticed that in patients with AS and PSA, there were 2 comorbidities, ischemic heart disease and hyperlipidemia, which tended to be diagnosed after the diagnosis of AS or PSA. So to sum up, our findings provide a novel comparison of the prevalence of CVD-related comorbidities in 3 inflammatory conditions in a UK primary care population. We found that patients with AS and PSA have significantly higher prevalence of hypertension, as well as a higher frequency of other cardiovascular-related comorbidities. We also found a higher proportion of specific CVD-related comorbidities, ischemic heart disease and hyperlipidemia notably, which occurred after the diagnosis of inflammatory arthritis. And I think these findings merit further investigation into the incidence of CVD-related comorbidities after the diagnosis of AS or PSA, perhaps an incident cohort study. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadeem. Any questions? Lane.
Maybe a beautiful presentation. I guess one might expect that patients with ankylosing spondylitis and psoriatic arthritis would be on non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and that might be one explanation for the increased risk of hypertension. I wondered if you'd had a chance to look at that in your data.
No, I think we've got limits because we use a SAPC database to extract all this information. So whilst it's a very high quality database, it was becoming quite complex if we were extracting data on medications that patients were on as well. So we kind of just kept it very simple.
Any other questions?
So I must have missed it at the beginning, I think. What age range did you look at?
Between 18 and upwards, so there was no kind of real cap in it. It was between the years 1999 and 2009 we captured anyone with a diagnosis of AS, PSA or psoriasis. So that.
Do you think some of it could have been that they were a lot younger, so they had CVD or not?
Yes, certainly. I think that one of the other things we could do is perhaps widen the age frame, or perhaps follow up people over a longer period of time and see if the frequency of certain CVD-related comorbidities changes over time.
Can I ask, would you recommend on the basis of your findings that we should be more proactively screening people, or?
Well, that's very difficult to say. I think, first of all, we kind of need further research into kind of quantifying the link between increased frequency of CVD-related comorbidities and overall CVD risk, if that's increased. And then we need to have a way of being able to accurately quantify, for example, the Framingham risk score or any other scoring criteria that we could use. So, but I think there's definitely something there.
I think, did you have a question, Nathan?
Yeah, sure. I was just going to ask, did you calculate the risk scores, please?
No. I know. Interestingly, there was a paper that was released just this month in Arthritis Care and Research, which looked at psoriatic arthritis, and they compared the observed incidence of CVD-related comorbidities against the Framingham risk score estimate, and they found that the Framingham risk score underestimates the overall CVD risk, and that what they found was that the observed CVD incidence was much greater. So it begs the question that maybe the Framingham risk score is perhaps not the best score to use.
I think just to say that Nadeem is a foundation doctor who did this in 2 days a week for 4 months. So I think it's a really nice presentation. Well done, Nadeem.
No worries, thank you.